What was the top news story last night on your national news? Do you remember? I want to declare to you that the stock market is driven by change. It is not driven by interest rates. It's not driven by inflation, and it's not driven by valuations. It's driven by change. Again, what was the top news story last night on the news? Do you remember? Well, let me refresh your memory. It was the coronavirus. It's been the same top news story for the last 2 years. And if you haven't figured it out, that's what's changing the world we live in. And that's what you need to invest in, the change. You don't need to be concerned about interest rates, inflation, and valuations. Those are temporary situations. The coronavirus is a permanent situation, and we have to change it. And as a result of that, this learning that you just acquired right now, you are in a position to make a ton of money. Because the last time the change came, hopefully you invested in it. Hopefully you invested in 4 stocks to a total of $40,000 that turned into, what is it, 57 million. And that's what I'm going to show you in this video today, how you should be investing for your future, not relative to interest rates, inflation, and valuation. That's what Wall Street does. We need to recognize that's the dumb money. The smart money invests in change. That's what I'm going to talk about in this video today. And at the end of the video, I'll tell you the stocks that I believe, based on last night's news story, lead news story, is going to change the world and is going to make me a multimillionaire. So stick with me. This is not financial advice. This is education. Talk to you in a second.
Best of Us Investors presents Kerry Griegmeyer.
Let's start by looking at this 40-year chart. Kind of gives you a broad perspective of the last big change in our world. And I want to track the 2 stocks that led that change. If you've watched my more recent videos, you know I'm talking about Microsoft and Apple. And look at this chart here. And what it is showing you is the growth of Microsoft and Apple. And it's comparing it. That's that little straight orange and yellow line down there. That's the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. Those are the stocks that are affected by interest rates, inflation, and valuation. But we don't care about those things. We care about change. And in looking at this chart, it just screams at you. If you had invested in change rather than in interest rates, valuation, and inflation, you'd have had some tremendous growth. Now, let's look at this second chart, which brings it down into a shorter time frame. And what I'm looking at here in this chart is, again, the Dow Jones and the S&P down here, this straight line on the bottom. And again, Microsoft and Apple, those next 2 lines. And then Nvidia and Tesla. Wow! Look at the difference there. Does Tesla, Nvidia have anything to do with interest rates, inflation, and valuations? No, they have to do with change. We know that the EV revolution drove Tesla. That's change. We know that artificial intelligence and chips, computer chips, drove Nvidia. What's that? Inflation? No, it's change. So what should we be investing in for the future? Oh, by the way, what do you think the top news story is going to be tonight on the evening news? But before we get to that, let me show you something else. This is a spreadsheet I created to basically track the growth of the stocks we've been talking about. And that would be Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla. And what I'm saying here is if you were astute enough over the last 40 years and you had $40,000 and you invested back in the early 80s, 10,000 in Tesla, in Apple, and 10,000 in 1987 in Microsoft, and then 10,000 in Nvidia in 2000, and then 10,000 in 2010 into Tesla, you would have invested $40,000. Would you have been directed by interest rates, inflation, and valuations? No. You would have been directed by change. The world was changing. And you would have invested $40,000 and it now be worth $57 million. So, with that in mind, what do you think the top news story is going to be on the national news this evening? Do you think it'll be interest rates? I don't think so. Do you think it'll be inflation or valuations? I don't think so. I think it's going to be the coronavirus and one of the variants. I think they're going to tell us that it's moving faster and we've got to get it under control. This can never happen again. Could you translate that into change? I think I can. So what do I want to invest in? Well, why don't I invest in biotech, healthcare, the stocks that are going to change the way we live? So let me show you my current healthcare revolution portfolio. And there it is. It's got CRISPR, Caribou, Editis, a bunch of genome sequencing or genome therapy stocks. Then it's got Illumina and Pacific Bioscience. That's genome sequencing. If you don't know what those two words mean, genome editing and genome sequencing, you really need to read the code breaker. It's all about us mapping our body and figuring out what causes cancer, what causes heart disease, what causes Parkinson's, what causes the coronavirus, and how we can go in and alter what's going in on our body by altering our genes and then also by altering our protein to stop the virus in one case, and on the genome side to stop the cancer, the heart disease, the Alzheimer's, the Parkinson's, so that it's no longer in our blood. Does that have anything to do with interest rates or inflation or valuation? Does it have anything to do with what's going to happen tomorrow in the stock market? No, it has to do with change. And what did we just determine? How you turn $40,000 into $57 million. Reacting to interest rates, inflation, and the jobs report? No, you invest in change. It's that simple. It really is. And now, why isn't anybody else telling you this? They can't make any money off of you. If all you do is put your money in the stocks that are going to change the world you live in and then leave it there, much as if you had put $10,000 into Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla and turned it into $57 million. How could they make any money off of you? No, they need to get you to get scared about inflation and about interest rates and valuations. And then let's go back to this chart of the 4 stocks that I showed you. They also, notice notice if you look carefully, and if you want a copy of this, all you got to do is go to bestofusinvestors.com, give me your email address and your name, and I'll send you an invitation to our Discord. And there on your Discord, you'll find all of this, so that you can change there's that word change again, your attitude about investing. So again, as I said, let's look at these charts from Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla. And notice that they didn't all go straight up. I mean, you can see there in the dot-com bubble and the subprime crisis, I mean, particularly the dot-com bubble, lost a lot of money. But if you had the mental framework that just said, I'm not interested in the reaction to the real estate crisis, in the subprime crisis. I'm not interested in the fact that there was overexuberance in the dot-com bubble. I know at that time, that Apple and Microsoft are the anchors of the internet, and they'll be fine. They're making money. They're growing. They're not pets.com. They're changing the world we live in. Pets.com never was going to change your life. Oh, it might change your dog's life for a day or two, but it isn't going to change the world. But if I can show you how they're going to take disease out of our body so that we live without disease, and our family no longer has to fear cancer or heart disease, do you think that can be scared away by some bad banking practices or some overexuberance about pets.com? I don't think so. If I don't get wrapped up in that, I think I'll be okay. So I hope this shows you don't have to be wealthy to invest if you'll make good investment decisions. And I mentioned this in a prior video, and I want to repeat it. In order to become filthy wealthy, and is $57 million filthy wealthy? It would be for me. I don't know about you, but it would be for me. You don't have to be a genius. You merely have to invest in geniuses. You need to invest in Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. You need to invest in Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And you need to then find out who Jennifer Doudna is and who Emmanuel Carpentier is and who George Church is. These are the geniuses, the scientists who are bringing us this change in our world. And if you'll read, you can become educated. And please don't follow me blindly. I could be wrong. I'm not. But I could be. But I'm not. So do yourself a favor and get off this interest rate, inflation, valuations, jobs reports. It don't have anything to do with investing in the stock market. That has to do with gambling in the stock market. All right. That's my wisdom to you. I read something in the newspaper that Ohio just passed a law that said that every high school graduate in Ohio would now have to take a course in financial literacy. And I thought, that's wonderful. So I Googled it, and I found out that actually 21 states have that requirement, that every high school student has to take a course in financial literacy. And what puzzled me, and as I read this article, they said the problem was there wasn't room in their curriculum for that. Oh, okay. And then they said, we can't find teachers who really know how to teach it. Why don't you just ask Google to put together a program in conjunction with Raymond James or Ameriprise or J.P. Morgan Chase to put together a Google program. I'd be happy to help with it. I'd be happy to tell them that interest rates, inflation, and valuation have nothing to do with the real growth in the stock market. And maybe we could educate our kids. And maybe you could be helpful in doing that by sharing this video with your children. And maybe we can turn the tide on financial illiteracy. All right, this is good fun. I'll be talking to you again tomorrow.